Okay, this is a quick tutorial on how to remove the side view camera and replace it with one of the transaction view cameras. So the front part of the ATM starts off and it looks like this. This is the front fascia and this is one of the side borders. The side view camera is on this left side. This is where the side view camera is. The way that you remove this border is that you pull the front fascia out, and you can see on this side there are several screws that keep the border on here. There's about 7 screws that keep this border on here. Remove the 7 screws and this border will come off like this. So now you have the border in hand. Now you can see the back part, and this is where the camera bracket is, and this is where the camera is mounted. So you just want to remove these screws and remove all the brackets so that you can have this camera, this whole camera bracket, in your hand. So now that I've removed the camera from the brackets and from the mounting brackets, this is what I'm left with, or this is what you'll be left with. So now you have to remove this camera from inside of this bracket. So just remove these 2 screws and then you should be able to pull this camera out and have it in hand. Alright, once you remove all the brackets, this is what you're going to be left with. You're going to just have the camera, the micro camera in your hand. So now we're going to take off the brackets that house where the camera we're going to be replacing are. So there are several different brackets that you have to take off. So we'll start with this one, since this is the easiest. You just unscrew these 3 screws. You don't have to unscrew them all the way. Just unscrew them enough to where they will slide the bracket out. And then just push this bracket this way and it comes out. Now you have this bracket. Keep it someplace where you'll be able to reference it or get back to it easily. The next bracket is going to be the bracket where your camera is housed. So depending on where you put your camera, we're going to put this camera on the left side. This is where the brackets, this is one bracket, one piece that comes all the way across here. So there's 2 Phillips head screws here that you would have to remove, and then there's 2 hex head screws that you would need to remove. So once you remove the bracket, this is going to be one piece, and this is one of the pieces that you're going to have to put back on once you mount the other camera in there. And then this is a secondary filler piece that is not going to go back on. So be sure that once that comes out, you just put that aside, but this is the piece that will have to go back on once the other camera bracket is in. So once the bracket is removed, you'll be able to take this camera out and have free range with it. First thing you want to do is cut off this tie strap so that you can gain access to the camera. Once you cut that tie strap off, just unplug the USB cable, and now you have the camera and the mounting bracket in hand. So now once you have the camera in hand, you can take off this screw and a bottom screw that's a set screw for it to be able to remove this out of the bracket, because now you want to replace this camera, this existing camera, with the other micro camera that came from the side view. Okay, now that you have everything removed, you should have, this is what the end result is. You have the old USB camera in hand, and then you have your pieces for the bracket to put the other camera in. So at this point, these cameras, the micro camera and the USB camera, are the same in how they mount in there. You just have to mount it the same way that you took out the other camera, and you should be fine. But make sure you mount it to where it has top side on the top, so that the camera image is not upside down. So once you mount your micro camera into the bracket, then this is what the end result will be. Everything fits in there just like the other camera did. So you should be able to put it in there and get it ready for mounting back to the ATM face. So once you get your camera back in your mounting bracket, then you want to mount it back to the face of the ATM. So be sure that you put the camera bracket on first and then put the mounting bracket over it, and then just fasten your screws back into the appropriate spots. So once you're done with mounting all your camera in the bracket, you have to put this bracket, this top bracket, over the camera and then mount your screws back accordingly like we said earlier, and your camera is now in place. Your wire connection will be made here because you would have to fish it up from the side panel to the top here, and then you'll make your connection here with the pigtail coming off of the camera. Last but not least, just put your top bracket back on. Make sure you put all the pieces back the way they came off, but this is your top bracket. Again, it just lines up with the screws here at the top. Push it in, slide it forward, and then fasten your screws. This is the finished product of what the micro camera looks like once you are finished installing it. Be sure to swap the other camera that you took out from the top side and put it on the corner side, just so that the camera is back in place. The connection is not necessary because these cameras are not being used for any fraud purposes or any other purposes with the ATM. But be sure that you put everything back in place as far as the brackets go. Once the ATM is powered up, then you can plug in this camera and verify the image.